What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Barrel Up Podcast. My name is Doug Clark from Northern Baseball Training, and today I'm joined by the face of a system that we have, that we love, that our players love even more, Andrew Barry from HitTrax. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate you coming on. So, like I said, we have a HitTrax. We absolutely love it. Our players love it even more. But for the people out there who aren't familiar with it, who don't know what it is, can you give it just like an explanation of what it is, what it does, your role with HitTrax, and just kind of dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, HitTrax is a data capture and simulation device. That's kind of the best description of it. It's a simulator, right? A baseball simulator, but at the same time, it's capturing all this data and giving you feedback and reporting and all this. You could also call it a launch monitor, but I think that just kind of dumbs it down a little bit. So, as you know very well, your guys are hitting in the cage. They see the ball flight. They're hitting at Yankee Stadium, but maybe they're 12 years old, so center field's 220 feet, so they can still hit bombs at Yankee Stadium just like the pros do. And it's really taken off. We really started mainly on the training side, helping with player development, getting kids back in the game, helping them kind of fall in love with the game, which I'm sure you've seen, firsthand is they enjoy being in the cage now, right?
Yeah, for sure. It brings a whole different element to just hitting in the cage, right?
Yeah, and you want to have fun when you're playing the sport, right? That's a huge part of it. So, but with that, there's obviously also this huge entertainment aspect with the gaming and the home run derbies and everything like that, that has kind of built its own market for entertainment only venues, such as maybe it's a bar, maybe it's a restaurant. Maybe it's a commercial shopping center or something like that where family and friends can go in and hit and get some food and drinks to go along with that. So it's kind of blossomed, and we have, all these different applications of the system now. And this is actually the company's a decade old this year, which is pretty cool. So, here we are, and that's kind of how we got here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like even just for like the gaming aspect for kids, like it's just like playing a video game, right? Like the kids, when you're a kid, like the cage is boring, right? When you're younger, like just hitting in the cage, like it can be boring, but you add the HitTrax and they're just excited to get in there, right? And like you said, you can pick any MLB stadium and it scales it down to their size, and you can give them like that distance boost, right? The kids love that, is because you get kids who don't normally hit home runs. You give them a little bit of a boost, and now they're hitting home runs out of Rogers Center, and they're having so much more fun with it, right? And then in the meantime, you're teaching them, mechanics and stuff. So they're having fun while they're learning, and that's just using like the gaming aspect, like the batting practice aspect. But there's so much data and like stuff that it captures that can be useful too for as you get like at a higher level.
I've seen facilities use that for like their 8 to 10-year-olds when they're training. Turn the boost up, let the ball fly out, maybe go over the fence a couple times, and the kids get pumped about that, right?
Yeah.
And they see that, and what do? The next swing, they're like, oh, okay, I can hit it farther than that. I can hit it farther than, Johnny who was just in the cage. And you actually see their exit velocities go up because of that too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the aspect there where, they start competing with themselves, and as across the entire game, like you said, the cage can be boring. There's a lot of repetition doing the same thing over and over again. And we've seen a huge increase in adding competition to the cages in as many aspects as you can to keep kids focused and to have intent on what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of our guys, like we love it. Like the atmosphere when somebody hits a PR, like an exit velocity PR, distance PR, is just like it's so awesome because everybody's celebrating each other, right? So you have that little like competition aspect, but they're also like in it together too, right? So they're high fiving each other when little Tommy hits a PR, they're high fiving them, and it just adds that excitement. Whereas like like as a coach, you can see when kids are getting better in the cage, but as a kid, and you don't really see it. You might feel, oh, maybe that felt a little bit harder, or that felt a little bit more line drive. But when you physically see it on a screen that's almost like a video game, that you're getting better, it just drives them to even push themselves even more. And like I said, that competition, we had a bunch of 14U guys. There was like 4 of them that were coming in like every day, and they were just competing with each other and just getting better and better. And that's what you want. That's what it does, right?
When you play a game, you do a league or a tournament, which, my sales pitch has always been, it's a great revenue generator. It's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Families love to do it. The kids have a blast and they keep signing up, which is all true. But at the end of the day, too, when you're playing a game on the system and a kid steps up to the plate with runners on second and third and 2 outs, and they're down 1 run in the sixth inning, and they see that on the screen, you see them in the cage, they knuckle up and they feel like they're in that moment. And
Yeah.
that kind of preparation mentally undoubtedly helps them when they go to the field, the next weekend, and they're in that situation in the game that they've been there before to some
Yeah.
extent. It helps them transition to on the field. I think that's been one of the biggest benefits of the gaming is kind of the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, you get a lot of game like situations. Like even when you do like actually like physically like live ABs in the cage, like we do that all the time. Where you have your pitcher, your catcher, and you have your at bat, and you set it up like a real game. And when you don't have that, you hit it like, okay, maybe that was a hit, maybe that was whatever. But then you see it in like a real game, like, oh, that was actually a bomb or that was actually a double, and that just kind of brings the more competitive nature too in it, and just helps the guys, just even more, right?
Yeah, and even if you don't, I mean, honestly, even if you don't use HitTrax for this, like that whole methodology, I've just become so passionate about it. It's like create competition in your cages,
Mhm.
put pressure on kids in the cage mentally. There's a time to have fun and there's a time to train, right? There's a time for all those components, and then there's a time to also just work on your technique and kind of feel it out. But create all those situations, mix it up, make it fun, make it competitive in the cage. There's a ton of ways to do that. And you're in there firsthand. You see this, and honestly, with the attention span too of folks nowadays, you got to keep everything new and fresh and cycling.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, and jumping back to like the gaming aspect and stuff, like we've done a few leagues, like slow pitch leagues. We did two in this winter, and once people got in there and like realized how much fun it is, like playing, there's no like it's slow pitch softball for one, so you don't have to run, you don't have to throw. It's like all the stuff that people like adults
Yes.
don't want to do. I just want to hit, just let me hit. And then they do that, and then yeah, and then it's just a lot of fun for people. Like for us, we're northern BC, so we have a long winter. Just to get in the cage, and you're playing games, and you're still competing, and you're still getting your swings in, and it was a lot of fun. And we had a couple leagues and tournaments, and had some trophies and stuff, and everybody just seemed to have a lot of fun with it. So that's just like the gaming aspect. But then you kind of jump into like all the data capture that it takes. Just walk me through a little bit of that. Like what does it track? Because there's so much that it tracks.
Yeah, we're most popular on the hitting side. We have a pitching and a catching module as well too. But on the hitting side, exit velocity, launch angle, distance, the strike zone location is a hugely underrated piece of the software, in my opinion, because the attention to detail and pitch selection, it's such a huge part of it. So that's a big aspect because the strike zone, it's accurate within a quarter of an inch, right? As long as you're freshly calibrated. But
Mhm.
it's dialed in. So then you also get things like point of impact, showing where you're capturing, where you're contacting the ball in relationship to home plate. It helped me the other day. I went in to do a demo and I was firing up the machine, and there was some high schoolers in there before me, and they had the machine up a little faster than I was used to. So I was popping every ball up, and I'm looking up at the screen, and I see my contact point was literally like right on the tip of home plate, right? Like extreme, and I'm standing, kind of right on the plate, so it's very far back in my swing. So just a moment like that, I looked up, I'm like, okay, I got to catch this out in front, and then the
Yeah.
next pitch. I got 6 inches in front of home plate and hit it, 320 feet for a double. No big deal, not to brag, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you
Just
get all that info, and then you pair it with video that comes in, and you tie the video to every single one of these swings. It builds a complete picture. Do you use the
mhm.
camera much?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every
Yeah.
every time we get a new player, the first thing that we do is we're like, hey, we set up the camera. I'm like, I'm not going to give you any instruction. I just want you to swing. And I just want to record this. And then we'll get to work and start working with everything. But yeah, we use the camera.
Yeah, and I'm like that visual aspect of it too is for kids understanding this stuff is great, but also you have the what caused the result, right? So you can take the videos from your first session with guys, and then at the end of the month, you take those and you put them side by side. You have a hit that's 70 miles an hour, and then you have a hit that's 85, right? And you can show the kid objectively, this ball you hit was 15 miles an hour harder, and in slow motion, here's the difference. Here's what caused that to happen. They can't argue with you on that.
Yeah. And I like how
Right?
you can sync the two swings up too. Like you have the 70 mile an hour one, the 85, and you can sync them side by side. So they're swinging in sync. And you can see like, hey, this is what you did here, and you hit it 50 miles an hour harder. And look at the difference. You can see it and you can point it out and be like, this is what you're doing right. This is what you're doing wrong. So then that visual aspect is because kids are visual. They're really, really visual. And having that slow motion swing to show them like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you're doing. This is what it's supposed to look like is super helpful.
I completely agree. I was at was fortunate enough to go to the Carlos Beltran Baseball Academy, but we actually got the chance to talk to him, and both in the cage and just with a little sit down. You know, one of the most interesting parts of the discussion, though, was I showed him the video and I showed him the auto replay, and he's looking at all the stuff he's talking about when he was, coming up as a player. And it was very important to him to try to learn his own swing, which we've all heard that, we all know that, but he was very adamant about that. He's like, I really had to know myself. I had some of the best coaches I could have ever asked for at every single level that I played, but I had to know my own swing because it's your body and each body moves differently, right? So within his first 15-20 minutes with the system, we were just talking and looking through how it can be applied. And I think the conclusion that we reached together really is that this combination of video and data helps players expedite the process of learning their swing. What happens maybe over the course of 2 to 3 years can happen in a much shorter time frame, where they learn this movement causes this result and this is what this movement feels like. So it speeds up the process of learning yourself, which is a huge part of growing as a player.
Yeah, for sure. And like understanding your swing, like we're big on getting players to understand their swing. And when we tell them this is what you need to do, we try to like get them to understand why they're doing this and why it's effective and why this is going to help benefit them. Whereas, a lot of coaches like do this and then that's it. Like put your hands here, do this with your hips, but they don't explain why. Or you did this with your hips and this is what you got. You did this and this is what you got. Or this is where your hands were, your feet, whatever, right? And having that side by side just for them to visualize and understand. Then as they get older and they start to kind of feel their body more, they can like self-correct. Like you want them to get into a game, and if they do pop up, okay, what did I do wrong? Well, I felt this or I felt that, and then they can make an adjustment. Whereas if they just don't know and they don't understand and they keep rolling over, they're like, I don't know, I'll just keep trying. And they don't, but if you understand your swing, you can be a lot more successful and self-correct yourself. What do you think are a lot of features that maybe don't get used as much that you think would benefit like facilities like ours that maybe we should maybe think about dialing in a little bit more?
Well, first off, it's hard to, because there's a lot on there.
Yeah, I know.
Like there's so many ways you can apply it that it's, a lot of times people do find the 4 or 5 things that really worked for them and that's what they go to. But there's just so much. I think, have you tried have you messed around with the training games much? Have you messed around with the skill challenges at all?
A little bit. We haven't really dove into that very much.
So the training games they're short mini games where you try whatever, situational hitting, for example. We put different scenarios out there. You can build a sequence of playlists and have guys execute that situation, and they get scored, on a 5-point scale, how well they succeeded. I think that's awesome. It kind of goes back to what we talked about, the mental aspect of feeling like you're in a game and executing, but this just allows you to repeat those situations, 5 reps of a runner on second, 5 reps of a runner on third, 5 bases loaded reps, etc. But the one that I don't think has been used a ton that I feel could be a huge aspect is the skill challenges. So it's a similar concept where you can build a sequence of playlists, right? Like you can pick, first off, start with hitting a line drive. Hit a line drive, and you can pick anywhere on the field, or you can pick middle, left field, or right field, and the field will highlight with whatever region you selected. And then you can also pick if you want it to be like has to be a minimum exit velocity. Maybe it has to be 80 miles an hour, or maybe it has to be a hard hit ball for you, a ball in your top 10% of your max exit velocity. So you have some of these parameters, and if you hit a hard hit line drive up the middle at that exit velocity, you get a point. If you don't, you get 0 points, right? It's a pass fail. So you can build that sequence, start with a line drive up the middle, hit a fly ball to left field, hit a ground ball to right field, and then hit within a vertical launch angle range, which is one of my favorite ones. You can pick the degrees for which you want the kid to hit the ball through. So you can start and say, all right, hit 5 balls between 0 and 10 degrees, then hit 5 balls between 10 and 20, 20 and 30, and maybe back down. So you can build this ladder drill. Combine all that together, it's essentially a target practice game. And it really, really works on barrel control, and it gets the kids focused on producing a good hit or whatever hit you want, less so about, what's happening as far as the defenders on the field, more about the ball flight. So that's one thing. That's the skill challenge in the training games that I think is a huge tool that probably isn't being used enough.
Yeah, barrel control is huge. So yeah, if you get them to really, one thing that you notice with a lot of kids as when they're younger is like focus. So like getting them to really focus on that helps with their mental aspect too, is just to focus on their barrel control and do little things like that. That'll definitely, help them in that area. And
if you focus on a lot of barrel control and working on hitting the ball to all fields, the last training game around the world was a lot of fun. You pick pull side or oppo side, you start there, and the kids try to get as many hits in from, for example, the right field foul pole to the left field foul pole. But every time they hit a ball, say you hit one to right center, from the right field line to right center, that field is eliminated. And then you keep going left. And as soon as you hit a ball in the dead zone, your round is over. So it's a great drill on these guys trying to get as many points as they can, spraying the ball from, oppo to pull side is most commonly what we see. And it just adds that other level of focus and kind of accountability.
yeah, that's good, getting kids to go the other way. Because like I said earlier, like a lot of kids when they're younger, they just think that they have to pull the ball every time. And, they think that if they go to right field, that just means that like the pitcher's throwing too hard. Like that's just like a mindset that you get when you're younger. Whereas if you can learn to go to right center on purpose and learn to go that way, you're going to be a better overall hitter. And, and as the kids get older and they start to realize that and they see that and they actually work on that, because, a lot of kids when they're younger, they're just doing batting practice. They're trying to yank the ball, over shortstop or whatever, and they stay away from the right side. But if you could learn and practice doing that, you're just going to be a better hitter overall.
Yeah, you got to be able to do it all at that age.
Do you have any top secret plans for HitTrax that you can reveal to us that you have in the works right now? Or
there's a lot going on. There really is. There's a lot of momentum right now. It really has taken off. I think what's kind of happened is people have recognized that, inside in the cage, it's the solution to have, right? At all levels, like we talked about, from your 8-year-olds to, all the pro partners that we have. The next biggest thing, which we kind of teased at the ABCA, is expanding on the video camera, potentially getting, more than one angle of the same swing. So what our special programmer is working on right now is being able to use up to 4 cameras that you can set up wherever you want to get the angle from. You set up these 4 cameras, and then you take a swing. And if you're familiar with our auto replay swing, where as soon as you take a hit and the video plays back, now it'll have up to 4 images, 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrant there, that will play back within, it's about a second right now, maybe a little less than a second. And you'll be able to scrub those videos. They'll all be synced up. I think that's a huge piece of it. Try to start to build this 3-dimensional picture, which kind of feeds into the biomechanics that we released last fall, looking at more of the swing itself and trying to help get more information as to what is causing those results. Yeah, have you looked at the biomechanics at all? That's one thing too. It is really cool. It's what I'll tell you is it doesn't take a biomechanist to be able to utilize it. The one great thing is you kind of, the HitTrax software overall is very easy to use. It's user friendly. They did the same thing with biomechanics. Typically, biomechanics, the data, it's going to require strapping yourself up with some sort of marker system or having a 5 to 10 camera setup to be able to capture your body, with these markers at different angles. What this does is it's markerless motion capture. So just using the same video camera that you use, you get video of the player's swing. We upload it to 3Motion AI's cloud. They analyze it and send it back down. What's cool about it is the visuals that go along with the data make it so easy to understand. So you can take a look at, your center of mass, and you see your center of mass at load, you'll get slightly negative, and then there will be some forward movement towards the pitcher, ideally until your heel strikes the ground. And then the swing just becomes rotational. So you can see some of that stuff on video now. You see guys drifting. What this does is it actually quantifies it and says, okay, at heel strike, your center of mass continues to go forward 4 inches, for example. So it quantifies stuff that you're probably already talking about. And it quantifies stride length, head movement, and provide these easy to understand graphs and pictures to go along with it so that you can explain this to a 12-year-old. I really think the application for it is beyond just high level, college pro teams. I think anybody can use that mode.
Yeah, and with like drifting, like you say, if you drifted like whatever, give it a number, say 4%, and then you work on it, like, hey, now you're only at 2%, so we're making progress. Like you're getting better, right? Having those numbers, I think, is huge for people to see, because you can't really see a 2% difference in that drift, right? But if you see a number, be like, hey, this is showing you that you are getting better, so keep working at it. And that kind of gives them that, what they need to know that it's actually working, right?
And that's where the next step of this is providing reporting. So you get that data collected over time, and we'll have a beta version coming out. Actually, I think it's ready like this week that people will install, that you can select the metric both on the body and the batted ball metric to see, all right, if when my stride is 12 inches, my average exit velocity is 85. When my stride is 10 inches, my average exit velocity is 90. So whatever metric it is you select, you start to get the actual direct number that's producing that result. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a huge tool. I think as we come into this off season, it's going to be a big push, and something that I'd highly recommend people take a look at. It's a couple $100 a month, but it's typically data that would require a $7,000 to $10,000 device or $150,000 lab. So it's one of our more expensive subscriptions, but it's honestly the cheapest way to capture biomechanics that I know of.
How did you get into HitTrax? Like I know you said you've been there for 6 years, but how did you start? Like what is your role like with HitTrax as well?
What's my role? That's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like you're the face, man. You're the guy.
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. I came here from working with the Tacoma Rainiers, the Mariners AAA team. My colleague Bobby, who you've probably seen, he's done some videos as well too. He's the East Coast rep. Bobby and I had always kind of joked about them needing somebody on the West Coast. So we'd joke about it for like 2 years or something. And then, he called one time and he was like, "You actually want to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't even know what the system is. Let's take a look at it." And I did a demo, and I didn't really say much. I was kind of speechless, like, this is ridiculous. So I took that up. I guess I'm the West Coast sales manager, if you will. That's my job title. But sales is probably the number one thing. Calls, emails here in the office. There is a lot of marketing stuff that goes on with videos and tutorials. We'll also do, in the case that somebody wants us to come out and set the system up, we'll do that. If it's for multiple systems, or somebody that maybe doesn't feel like they're tech savvy enough to do this, they'll have us come out, or just to learn and to have some people get the chance to bring coaches in. So the installations are a big part of that, which is always great, because you get to see people using the system for the first time, and that's when it's fun. When you see them taking their first swings, when the light bulb pop off in their head and their parents see it, it's like that's really exciting stuff.
Well, like when me and my brother got it, like we were like little kids in a candy store, like. Because when we started Northern Baseball Training, like we had getting a HitTrax on our goal. Was like one of the goals that we wanted. Like we started off training in an upper gym of a high school with like 5 kids, and then we got a smaller facility, and we did it for a couple of years, and we finally got to a position where we could get one. And then when we got it, like we were in the cage for like 3 hours, just like we were like playing games, like hitting, and just like I was so sore the next day just because we were like little kids, right? We're trying every field, we're playing games, we're having home run derbies, like we're just like it was just so fun that first day that we were just playing around for like 3 hours straight. Just I can imagine you seeing like little kids like that because we're grown adults like that. So
Right.
like once you get kids in there seeing it, was there anything else about the HitTrax that you wanted to bring up that we kind of didn't cover, or anything that we missed? Or
I don't think so, man. I think we covered a lot there. That was a good
yeah,
session. I did
yeah,
I did want to ask you, like, when are you getting your second one, man? Because
I,
you started at your, I remember you were in this, like, it almost looked like a storage shed
it
with your
was
batting
it meant it
cage.
was a garage. It was like
It was a garage.
it was a shop that we rented. It was like it was 800 square feet. It was 40 by 20 garage, and we just rented it, put up a batting cage. That's where we started. Now we have it's 4,000 square feet of turf. We have two cages. It is in the plan, the future plans to get another one. It is our goal. We're just not there yet, but it definitely is the plan for sure.
You've got like the black turf in there, right?
Black
Dude,
turf, black walls. It looks clean. It looks awesome.
it is beautiful. I love that spot. I got to make it up there.
Yeah, definitely. Like we had that, like we wanted to do like all black, but we were kind of unsure. Like, is this going to look like a dungeon? Like, is this going to look bad? But we got some good lighting in there, and it looks awesome. It looks clean. Yeah, we love it. So the plan is to definitely get another one. Maybe eventually get into a bigger spot and
That's what I was gonna ask.
11 or 12, or see
Yeah.
see see whatever we can do. But yeah, we're just going to continue to grow, continue to do what we do, and just get better and bigger and better. And the HitTrax has been a huge part of our growth since we started. And like I said, it was our goal to get one when we started, and now that we have one, it's just we love it. Our players love it. Everybody who comes in just raves about it. So I can't say more good things about it. And you too. Every time we do have like an issue or anything, you're always right there. Text you, call you. You're always like right there to help us. So I appreciate you for that. Because sometimes if it glitches, we're panicking. Like, what do we do? We got a tournament, and then we call you, and you're right there. Hang on, give me a second, and you help us. So that's awesome. Like on your end. So we really appreciate that from you. So
Yeah, well, and you guys have been there for a while now. You've kind of seen this growth, and we've kind of grown together. And the content you guys do is awesome. I was pumped when you got the new spot to see your growth, and I'm pumped to see what you guys do after this. So no, I love it all. I appreciate your support as always, and no, I love the discussion.
yeah, me too. Well, yeah, thank you for jumping on the call. We'll stay in touch. I love watching what you guys do, and like I said, you guys are just growing and growing, and it's fun to see you guys grow as well. So, yeah, thanks again for doing this, and we'll chat soon.
100%. Appreciate you, Doug.